You know, for decades, eggs have been the most controversial thing on the breakfast menu. One minute, they're a superfood, the next, they're a cholesterol nightmare. But what if that whole debate was missing a huge piece of the puzzle? It turns out new research is suggesting eggs might play a surprising role in protecting our brains as we get older. Let's get into it.
I mean, this really sums up the confusion, right? Are they a healthy superfood packed with protein, or are they a cholesterol bomb just waiting to go off? It's this nutritional tug-of-war that's left most of us just kind of wondering where this breakfast staple really stands.
And for the longest time, the conversation was totally dominated by that old fear, dietary cholesterol. But, as you can see here, the scientific lens has really shifted. The new focus is on something way more fascinating, the idea that eggs could actually be a powerful food for our cognitive health.
And that brings us to a brand new study that's asking, are eggs a new kind of brain food? A team from UC San Diego just published some findings that add a really interesting layer to this story, and they're looking specifically at how eggs might affect the aging brain.
The goal here was pretty simple, but also pretty profound. This study, which was published in the journal Nutrients, set out to find a real, measurable connection between older adults eating eggs and how well their brains performed over several years.
So, what did they actually find? Well, to answer that, the researchers tapped into an amazing source of data, the Rancho Bernardo study. This is a long-term project that's been tracking the health of adults in a California community for decades. So, let's look at the specifics.
Okay. As this table shows, the setup was pretty straightforward. They looked at almost 900 adults, all of them over the age of 55. They tracked how many eggs they ate and gave them cognitive tests. Then they followed up 4 years later to see what, if anything, had changed.
And here is where it gets really fascinating. The data showed this striking, gender-specific link. For women, eating more eggs was associated with less cognitive decline. What's wild is that this connection held up even after they accounted for things like age, education, and even cholesterol. But curiously, they didn't see that same strong link in men.
So naturally, that leads to the next question. Was there a sweet spot? Did the research point to an ideal number of eggs per week to get this cognitive benefit? It sure did.
And that number is 5. 5 eggs a week.
Yep, to be precise, eating around 5 eggs per week was linked to the absolute best cognitive outcomes for the women in this study. You know that old saying, an apple a day? Well, it might need a little update.
But what does that benefit actually look like in the data? What does it translate to? Well, the study identified a very specific, measurable advantage, half a point on a key cognitive test. This quote from the study really puts that number into perspective. Now, I know, half a point might sound small, but the researchers stress that it's statistically significant. Over time, that tiny difference could be the difference between easily remembering a name versus having it stuck on the tip of your tongue. It represents a real, measurable protective effect over that 4-year period.
Okay, so this, of course, leads to the big question. Why? What is it about eggs that could possibly be protecting brain function? Well, the answer seems to be that they are a true nutritional powerhouse. Inside that shell, eggs are just packed with this cocktail of brain-healthy nutrients. We're talking about choline for memory, powerful antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin, and of course, high-quality protein. The theory is that this unique mix of nutrients works together to support our neurons. They basically help maintain the physical structure and the functional efficiency of our brain cells, giving them the building blocks they need for cognitive resilience. But hold on, what about the cholesterol? You know, the original villain of our story? This is a really key distinction. Researchers point out that while eggs do have dietary cholesterol, they're actually low in the harmful saturated fats you find in other high cholesterol foods, like red meat. And that could be why eggs can offer these brain benefits without all the cardiovascular risks we used to worry about.
So after unpacking all this science, what does it all mean for your brain on breakfast? How does this research actually translate from a lab to your kitchen table?
The bottom line is this. The study adds some really compelling new evidence that moderate egg consumption could be a simple, smart dietary choice, especially for older women, to support long-term brain health. All right, so let's quickly recap this new perspective. First, those old fears about egg cholesterol, they might not tell the whole story. Second, new evidence links about 5 eggs a week to real cognitive benefits in older women. And finally, and this part is crucial, this was an observational study. That means it shows a link, an association, not direct cause and effect. So we still need more research to confirm these findings.
It's just a powerful reminder that what we eat
truly matters for our minds. And it leaves us with a really fascinating question. If a food we've debated for so long holds these kinds of potential benefits, what other everyday foods are just sitting out there, waiting to be rediscovered as powerful boosters for our brains?